Hi, my name's George. I'm an alcoholic. I'm going to tell you my story. First of all, I'm a person that never got sick and tired of being sick and tired. What brought me into the halls of AA is 100% medical. I'll start off with a little background on how my drinking was. I'll tell you the main part, which is the very serious part, and where I am today as an alcoholic. I, just like a lot of other people, had my first drink at a young age. I had mine at the age of 13. A bunch of my parents' friends took me to a Bruins game, and we went out to a bar beforehand, and he had a son which was underage too, and went to a bar, and I said, I'll just have a soda. He goes, he made it very clear to me, he goes, you know what, when you're out with me, you drink. So, and I never really thought about it, but I ordered 7 and 7, and I enjoyed it. Had a couple of those during the day, and I didn't get like blasted. I was, kind of out of it, not like blacking out or getting sick, but I actually controlled it, and I liked it. I continued to drink for a little bit more after that, and probably high school I drank a little bit, but when I got to college, I really gave up drinking. I really didn't like it. Didn't like the taste, didn't like what it did to me, and I couldn't hold my alcohol. I wasn't a really very good drinker. So I didn't drink much during college. Excuse me. And then when I got out of college, I think that's when I really started to decide that I did want to drink. Again, it wasn't really me. It was like my mind that made me want to do this. So I walked into a bar one day up the street from where I live, and I never walked out. I moved in, and I fell in love with alcohol. It became my wife, my bride, whatever, however you want to call it. And started having kids. And what would happen is, and the way my drinking was is, and I'll tell you different stories about this, is the way my drinking was is, I would take the kids to a karate at, let's say, 5 o'clock. I'd go to karate, I'd drop them off at 5, run right to the Packy, which was 2 minutes up the road. I would drink a 6-pack while I'm waiting for them to do karate, which was only half hour long. So I could drink it pretty quick, and there was no stopping me. I was double fisted and just going crazy. Then on the way home, I'd stop at a liquor store and pick up another 6-pack so I could have during dinner. And I'd drink that, and during dinner, and I'd put the kids to bed, and I'd tell my wife I'm going out. On the way to the bar, I'd pick up another 6-pack, which was going to help me after I finished, after I got home. And at the bar, I drank about 6 beers, so another 6-pack. So I was drinking about a case a day. And this was going on every day for a good 12 years. And of course, when I got home and I finished that 6-pack, I would see what's ever in the liquor cabinet. Maker's Mark, Bailey's, Kahlua, vodka, Smirnoff, whatever. And I would just drink it. And I would drink it till I fell asleep or I passed out. I was never a blackout drinker. I did not drink to get beer muscles, to pick up women, to be rude. When I went to the bar or when I was going out, all I wanted to do, I focused on drinking. And my drinking never occurred during the day. I was a functioning alcoholic. I had my own business. And come 5 o'clock in the afternoon, if I didn't have a drink in me, well, then I was starting to get a little bit fidgety, edgy, palms starting to sweat. And that's how I felt. And this continued for 12 years. I drank for about 12 years. The last 5 or 6 were heavy drinking. And I just didn't care. I just didn't care about anything. The only thing that mattered to me was where my next drink was coming from. The old saying, what's your favorite drink? My favorite drink was the next one. And that's my philosophy. And I would just drink. I didn't want to talk to anybody. I would go down to the bar, and a guy would come up and sit next to me and say, hey, how you doing? My name's, so-and-so. And I'd say, that's great. But you know what? I understand if you want to talk to me, I just can't talk right now because I only have a certain amount of time to be out at the bar. And you're interfering with my drinking. I'm not trying to be rude. You want to talk to me, give me a call on the phone, and we'll meet somewhere, or I'll come down early next time and talk. And then and this went on. And of course, I'm jumping ahead. I'm all over the place, but I'm a little bit nervous. But that's the way it's supposed to expected. And then one day, I got up and I didn't feel well. So I went to the bar that night. I wasn't like sick, nauseous. I just didn't feel it. My belly hurt. So I went to the doctor that day, and he told me, examination, goes, well, Jeff, you got shingles. And never even heard of shingles. All I know is that if you had chicken pox, you can get the shingles. If you didn't, then you can't. And he goes, but I'm going to give you an MRI the next day just to make sure that it's really what we're looking for here. So I said, okay, but what about for the pain? And he goes, I give you some pain. And I said, I prefer Percocets because that was my drug of choice for painkillers. And he gave me a bunch of them. You know, it was a nice, good prescription. And then I came home that night, and I went out to the bar. And geez, I just didn't feel well. I had my usual drink, and I had another drink. And I said, you know what, to Mrs. X, the bartender, I said, I don't feel well. I'm going home. And this guy actually came up to me and says, you know what, the best thing when you don't feel good, the best thing to help you feel better is a drink. He goes, let me buy you a drink. So I'm like, okay. I never turned down a drink. I've never turned down a drink, especially a free one. And I drank about 3/4 of it. And I just could not finish it. I just didn't feel well, which is unusual. And even people at the bar who know me say, something's wrong. I mean, he must really be sick. So I came home and fell asleep on the couch. And woke up the next day around 8, brought the kids to school, and made them lunches as usual. I did every day. And I went back on the couch, and I just didn't feel right. I'm sucking down the Percocets like it's candy, chewing them, swallowing them, whatever. And the pain would just not go away. It was excruciating. So I finally said to my wife, I said, Carrie, can you please take me to the Leahy Clinic? So this is around 10 o'clock. And around 10 o'clock, she puts me in the car, and she calls the Leahy Clinic ahead of time and says, I'm bringing my husband in. Can you have a wheelchair waiting? Because he's pale white, and he just seems like he's out of it. I mean, I was coherent, but I was just like, you know what? I just couldn't walk. So, of course, she drops me off the front, being the hospitals they are today. I walk into the emergency room, and I said, my name is Jeffrey Cohen. I'm here.
Okay.
Yep.
I'll take it out.
Oh.
So I walk in, I'll cut it out.
Okay. All right. I said my name. Okay.
My name is George.
Yep. So I walked in. I said, my name is George. I called ahead to see if I could be seen. And the nurse said, well, you don't mind having a seat in the waiting room? And I said, yeah, I do mind. And I dropped to the floor right there, passed out. And so now that was around 10 o'clock. So around 12 o'clock, I get up. A doctor's in the room, and he sits me up, and he goes, George, I just have to ask you a few questions. I said, all right. And he goes, how much do you drink a day? And, according to the alcohol handbook of lies, or whatever you want to call it, I said, I drink a couple a day. And he goes, no, really, Jeff, I need to know how much you drink a day. I said, all right, maybe a 6-pack if I'm lucky. And I was like, yeah, 6-pack, yeah, maybe. He puts his hand on my shoulder, just like, Jeff, I'm going to ask you a serious question.
George. It's okay.
Okay. He goes, George, I'm going to ask you a serious question. I said, go ahead. And he goes, you're going to die today. He goes, I need to know how much you drink a day. And I told him, well, I drink a lot. And he goes, do you know you're an alcoholic? And I said, yes, I do know. And when I said that, it's like everybody carries a knapsack on their shoulder. And mine was full of rocks. And when I said, yeah, I'm an alcoholic, it was like the knapsack came off. It was like the weight off of the world. I mean, I was open about it. I didn't have to hide my drinking anymore. I can go home tonight and just drink and not have to worry about anything. Well, he goes, but I'm just going to give you an MRI just to make sure that this is what it is. And he says, what you seem to have is acute pancreatitis, which 2 things cause that. Diabetes, which you definitely don't have, or alcoholism, which you do have. So around 2 o'clock, excuse me, around 2 o'clock, we go down to the MRI room, and he puts me, and they're starting to put me in the MRI, and all I remember is just leaning up, like with the machine, almost like I banged my head, and I just lied back down, and I died. I was gone. I was not alive, and again, now this is not by experience, this is what people were telling me. So they wheeled me back to the emergency room, and they paddled me back to life. It took them 2 times to do it. Of course, I don't remember it because I was dead. And my feeling on that is that, God said to somebody down there and says, you know what? Not yet. I have plans for this gentleman, and I need his help, or I need him to do stuff in the future, so I'm not going to take him just yet. So then I was wheeled back to a room, and around 6 o'clock at night, and the timeline is very important because it shows how much time you have. Around 6 o'clock at night, I'm wrapped in blankets and nice and warm in a gurney, and the doc says, George, we're going to take you someplace. We're going to transfer you to the Leahy Clinic up in Burlington for people like you. I'm like, well, what do you mean people like me? He goes, well, people that are going to help you. You need a lot of help, medical wise and just head wise. You got a lot going on. So my wife sits there and she goes, Doc, you don't mind if I ask you a question? How long do you think he's going to be in the hospital? And the doctor looked down at me and he goes, well, if he lives through the night, it will be a miracle. And that's the second time I heard that day, that I'm dying. And so I'm in the ambulance. I'm a little bit ahead of my family, my wife, my kids. Actually, it wasn't my kids. I apologize. My wife and my sisters was in the car behind them. And I had them speed it up because the pain was just so painful. And so I got to the hospital about 2 minutes before everybody else arrived. And when they got there, they said, I'm here to see George, my husband. And they said, oh, I'm sorry, George had some complications. He slipped into a coma. He's in intensive care, and you're sorry, you cannot see him. And I slipped into that coma for about 6.5 days. And I remember some of it. I remember, well, I shouldn't say I remember it, but I remember how it felt. Because after the 6.5 days, I came out of my coma, but I was on life support. And I remember about third or fourth day into my coma, my family got the call, says, do you mind coming on down? I don't think he's going to make it through the night. So they got down there. It's like 2 a.m, and they're just waiting for me to, to pass on. And I didn't. Again, I didn't. And my feeling is that, God had other plans for me, or not even God, but a higher power. And a few hours later, excuse me, the doctor came back and says, you know what, he took a turn for the better, and I think he's going to make it. And I turned out, I'm here today, so I guess I did make it. But I remember when I woke up from the coma, I remember being belligerent. I want to get out of here. This is not my fault. I was blaming it on my mother. I'm not what you think I am. Get me out of here. I was hallucinating about the employees. One day I was dreaming that they were having a huge party, like a luau, like what do you call it, a Hawaiian party, like a luau, and they're all smoking pot and they're all having fun. I'm like, what, get me out of here. Call the police. And that went on a few days. And then finally one night around 2, 3 in the morning, there comes a lady doctor and says, George. I'm sorry, it says, George, if I take all these tubes out of you and all these needles out of you and all these intravenousness, will you be a good boy? And I just had enough, and I just just couldn't speak because I had the tube down my throat. So I just nodded my head, yeah. And it took a few hours to do it, and then she goes, all right, well, let's put you over there so I can change the sheets and get you a bed to go to your room tonight. I remember trying to stand up, and I fell right to the ground. And she said, no, you're going to have to relearn, even though you've been only out of it for 6 days, you're going to relearn how to do a lot of stuff because you were dead. And that's what happens. I was in that hospital bed for 3.5 weeks. And with acute pancreatitis, there's no medication for it. And what happens is excuse me, the pancreas is usually about, let's say, this big, like a small, but mine swelled up to the size of a football. And so imagine in your stomach a football, and it shuts off your lungs and stops you. That's why I was on life support. It shuts everything down. Well, anyway, so I was in the hospital for 3.5 weeks, and one day the nurse comes in and says, I'm going to teach you how to walk again. And when I got out of bed, again, I just fell to the floor. So they gave me a walker to walk around, take a walk with the nurse around the hospital. And I did it, and I felt, I was saying to myself, I can't believe this happened to me. This is where it took me. And so they wheel me around, and I couldn't walk without the walker, of course. And I come back to my room, and the nurse comes in, a doctor comes in with a nurse and starts explaining stuff to me, saying, you do understand you can never drink again. And I'm like, really? I came to have a drink here and there. And they were honest with me. They said, Jeff, you can drink whatever, Jeff, you can drink whatever you want. But this doctor said, and I guarantee you in 30 days, whatever you drink, you'll be dead. Because once you start up again, it's a trait, you'll never stop. So I recommend that you never ever drink again. And I never have. And that was 7 years ago, and I'm still sober today. And it took me a while because my brain did not want to stop drinking. Again, my body is the one that made me stop drinking, and I hated myself. I hated my body for that. Because, I was, they're saying that alcoholism is a roller coaster ride. And, I'm coming to the top, and I'm ready to just, go down and enjoy, a long time drinking. And it abruptly stopped, and I was upset. And I haven't had a drink, and and then after not drinking, I started getting my taste buds back, started getting feelings back. I'd be driving down the road, and all of a sudden I'd start to cry like I was on this pink cloud, and I knew it wouldn't last forever. And then I started getting my family back, and one of the most important things in my life on my kids. I got 3 wonderful kids, 2 girls and a boy. Right now they're 16 and a half, 15, and 13. And my son, who's very close to me, makes sure every night I go to meetings. Even last night he says to me, he goes, we went out to dinner, and then I was late for my meeting. I was a good half hour late, so I said, you know, I'm not even going to go late. So I came home and he goes, what are you doing? I said, well, did you go to the meeting? I said, no, I was too late for it, so I didn't go. He goes, well, then go find another meeting. You have to go to a meeting. And he actually got upset that I didn't go. So I actually did go to a meeting. I went like a 9 o'clock meeting, and I want to say it was up in Beverly, I think it was. Beverly, I went with another person who I'm trying to help out now. And we went to the meeting, and it was good. We're actually late for that, but at least I got, you know, a good 45 minutes in. And so he's very strong with me about going to meetings. We're going away this weekend to Nashville, Tennessee, and I already looked up meetings to go. I mean, I have somebody I have relatives out there. They're going to watch him for a couple hours while they go to a meeting for a couple of nights. And he's very strong. He's the one that gives me my medallions everywhere. He's very, not into it, but he just wants me to get better. Because probably, we were alone during the summer, a couple summers, and I probably hurt him the most, which I regret it. I don't really think about drinking. Sometimes I think about, you know, why couldn't I be a social drinker and be able to drink? But it just wasn't meant for me. I mean, you know, but I can't say that I beat this thing because it's still inside me, and the enzymes or the allergy can start up any time. But all I have to say is, and the bottom line is that I say this, the doctors saved my life, but AA keeps me alive. And that I owe AA everything. I owe the doctors for getting me back alive, and I praise AA for keeping me alive, because that's the way I feel about it. Anybody that's new, this is the best place to be. There's no doubt about it. You can try any other program. I think this program works. I'm living proof of it, and so are millions of people out there. And that's the way I feel. And I'm 51 years old. I feel great today. I feel like I've accomplished a lot, even though I have a long way to go. I mean, I hear people that have 30, 40 years. I only have 7. And I take this program one day at a time. If I don't drink today, that's great. Hopefully I don't slip up tomorrow, and I have a great day tomorrow. But that's the only, I don't look forward towards the future. I don't look forward to anniversaries. I don't look forward to any of that, because it only takes one drink to slip this whole thing up. And to, you know, again, one drink is all I need to, again, the doctor said that will take me to my death. And I can't have that. I have too much going on for me right now. And again, I just want to tell you some points about when I came home from the hospital. I was with that walker, and I felt ashamed. I felt like an old man. Here I am. Back then I was 45 when I quit, or 44, something like that. And I'm walking with a walker. And I remember the social worker came down the next day. And I have a family business, and what I did with that family business, I sold paper products to restaurants, and my specialty was Chinese restaurants. And this lady comes down, and I thought she was kind of off the wall. I didn't really like her at all, to be honest with you, because her philosophy was like, she goes, well, how much did you drink a day? I said, well, I probably drank a 6-pack and bottle of whatever I could find. And she goes, right off the bat, she goes, well, you're lying. You probably drank double that. I said, why would I lie about it? She goes, because all alcoholics lie. I'm like, I got nothing to lie about. I mean, I have a second chance on life. I'm not going to lie about it. And then she actually proceeded to tell me that to quit my job and find something else, because I shouldn't be in restaurants because there's bars there and there's alcohol there. And I proceeded to tell her that I don't drink during work. I was a functional alcoholic. And of course, well, you're a liar. Because once again, all alcoholics do is lie, and that really pissed me off, and I did not really get into her much. And then a physical therapist came down that afternoon too, and the first thing she did was throw the walker away. She goes, you don't need this. This is absolutely, you don't need it. And I had to learn how to walk. I had to do my exercises every day. I couldn't drive for another probably 3-4 weeks. And I remember my mother coming down, and like when I would go to sleep at night, or if I went upstairs, or if I was doing my exercises, she would go in the liquor cabinet, and she marked the bottles with a black line. So she would just make sure that I wasn't drinking. And of course, there's ways around that too. I remember when I was drinking, I would drink wine. I'd drink like a half a bottle of wine, and I'd fill it with water. saying, or booze or vodka or anything. I would fill it back with water, saying, "Oh, yeah, I didn't drink this. It's the bottle's full." And of course, when I went to drink it again, it was watered down. But hey, I mean, when you want booze, you take whatever you can. And the kids were very nice to me. They made me cards and stuff like that. But it was a weird family because I wasn't really around for those years that I was drinking. I just was not there. And I look at pictures of myself, the kids growing up and having, my kids and stuff like that. Even I remember I had my son, who was a third, and and I remember I was on an all-night bender, and the wife calls and says, "George, can you come down? We're about to have a baby." And I'm like, "Now?" It says, "I'm kind of busy right now." So I did. I got up like 4 or 5:30 in the morning. I was already up anyways. I drove to the hospital, not really coming down my bender, but I shouldn't have been driving in the first place. And I get there and I sit in the rocking chair and I just passed out. And then the doctor comes up to me and goes, "George, I mean, your wife's about to have the baby. Do you wanna come in?" And let me preface this: we had a stillborn, first child. And let me just explain this because this is not really fun to talk about. So we had C-sections for all the rest of the kids. We had a cord accident. My son, it was my firstborn. Everything was going fine. We went in the hospital that night. She felt something was wrong, and the cord got caught around his neck and it actually killed him. So she had to carry that baby the whole next day when it was never going to happen. And that's why your wife's about to give birth, they could postpone it for a couple of hours because she was having a C-section. So I remember going in. She had the baby, and I said, "Oh my God, Dad, go back to the room. I'll go back to whatever a little while. The baby's in the room." And I said, "That's awesome." And I said, "Okay, I'm gonna go." And I just went, and I had to go home. I couldn't stay at the hospital. When my second daughter was born, she was 3 months premature, and she was a preemie, and she was in the premature baby unit, whatever you call it. And my wife would go down every day, and she would breastfeed, pump milk, and she would feed the milk. And I would go down at night and feed her, the milk that was already pumped. And she was fed through a garage, which is up the nose. You put in like a little thing that's fed up the nose. And there were times I would never even show up because I would stop at the bar on the way and just get hammered. And the day before Sophie, this is her name, is Sophie, was coming home. She goes, "Oh, when you get to the hospital, make sure that you have the doctor or somebody put the car seat in." And I never got to the hospital that night. I stopped by the park, Fenway Park, and there were games going on or whatever, and I just never got there. So when I went to pick up Sophie the next day, the wife's like, "George, didn't you get the seat put in?" I said, "No, I lied." He said, "No, he wasn't there, and he couldn't do it, or to come back today, or to come back tomorrow when I pick Sophie up." So it just shows what a loss of family values. I lost everything. I would drive with the kids in the car if I was tipsy, or I wouldn't take them to the movies unless I had booze with me. I remember that, "Dad, can you take us minutes to go off?" And I said, "Yeah, but I got to stop at the liquor store and grab nips." Nips were my best friend. Nips were beautiful, and nips are made strictly for alcoholics. It's a quick fix. I could tell you a time I was going to I actually got a chance to go to the NCAA basketball championships for those 2 days, and I snuck nips into my sock because I needed it. That was my medicine. And I remember getting there, and I take them out and I put them in my pocket, and after the end of the first quarter, I open up a nip, and I'm about to drink. Goes, "Hey, do you mind if I have one of those?" I only had 5 with me, one for each quarter, and the end of the game. I said, and I couldn't give him one because the fact that this is my medicine, and I have it perfectly timed out that I can't. And the guy was kind of upset. "What do you mean? You have 5? You can't give me one?" I said, "No, I can't even give you a sip because if I don't have the certain amount, I'm sick. I'm sick." And that's what I was. I was just a sick person. And then when I went back the next day, of course, I brought the same amount of nips, and the guy next to me brought his own. So he learned. So I don't know if that was a great thing to teach people, but he brought his own. And my friend goes, "Yeah, I'll go get your Coke," because it was like Bacardi. I said, "I don't need a Coke. I'll just open it up," and I just drank it. And it was the plastic bottles, so you could just throw it on the ground. And that's where my life seemed. Alcohol controlled my life. It controlled me. It controlled what I did. I wasn't making any decisions in my life. It was strictly alcohol making decisions, which was horrible. Which is a bad way to go. And And the one thing that I hate about this disease is that when it kills you, if you let it beat you and it kills you, I don't like the fact that the disease wants you to die alone. I'm 100% against that. When some person dies, you should die with dignity, with your family around you, or your friends around you, or in a hospital, in a home. But I don't like to hear that, oh, he died in the woods alone because of alcoholism, or he died in his car, from alcohol, or he died alone, but he died on the floor. It's no way to go. That's why one of the reasons I hate this disease, because it doesn't let you die with dignity. It makes you look like a bad person. And you could be the nicest person in the world, you can be an alcoholic, and dying without dignity is a sad way to go. So I'm very upset when I hear stories that when you die alone, you die in the woods. And I know people that have died in the woods. I've lost family members. My cousin, I've lost my cousin to this disease. And he was in a motorcycle accident. He survives the accident, but his heart was so beat up, he was supposed to have open heart surgery, but the alcohol wouldn't let him, that he didn't die from the accident. He died from alcoholism because he drank too much and over the course, and he was starting to get sober, but his body just gave out 100% due to alcoholism. And he was my favorite. He was one of my first cousins, and we were somewhat close. When he started getting drinking, I started drinking. We weren't that close anymore because alcohol consumed our life. We didn't care about each other. And that's where it stands right now. So again, I just like to thank you and anybody that's in this program or trying to get in the program. This is the best place, and I wish you all well. Thank you. My name is George.